I was working fewer and fewer hours trying to keep up with my speaking schedule and the research and the effort, the marketing effort that we're trying to educate all of the architects and engineers.
Amazing. Tell us about this news clip I'm about to play, because you're getting on more and more mainstream television, and they're being somewhat respectful.
Well, let me tell you that the incredible, hardworking folks at We Are Change Fresno, a new We Are Change chapter, Fresno, California, they through lots of effort at contacting not just this one media outlet, KMPH FOX TV, local affiliate down there, but they contacted several different affiliates, and wherever I go, we try to do this, but it takes a lot of effort, a lot of contact, a lot of pressure, and consistent, and they broke through. We were able to get on the Great Day show, which is broadcast throughout Central California on Fox affiliates. So it's pretty incredible. It's a 7.5-minute interview, which was very positive, where I was able, I feel, to get out most of this evidence.
We're going to let you go in a moment and play that, and we'll have you back up in the near future to chronicle the great work you're doing all over the world as you travel in Europe and Canada and the United States. People should go to the website and support you. The last question, are the people on the other side who are now discovering, literally have the hands on the plungers, the evidence shows, how do you deal with the creepiness of some of the events you and Stephen Jones and others go to where you've confronted these people? And how do you deal with also knowing that you and others are making history, that your momentum and your evidence is really changing things? Because I'm starting to see a lot of fear in their eyes. They realize this is like Galileo, arguing that the planets moved and they locked him up for it, but later it came out that he was right even before he died, or Copernicus before him, saying that saying the Earth was round. They're in deep trouble because the science is on your side.
Yeah, and the numbers are too. Our architects and engineers are growing, and we're going to be presenting this petition to Congress. We hope to have 1,000 by October when we go out there to Washington D.C. Personally, I'm delighted. I'm fired up every time we get a new breakthrough in the media. I'm incredibly delighted. In fact, we're going to be on Coast to Coast AM Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Pacific time. And that's nationally syndicated, like your show. We're just making some incredible progress, and that
that show's a lot bigger than this one. It's the second biggest show in the country. And in fact, I heard George during the news segment a few weeks ago cover the peer-reviewed journals about the thermite and the chips and the rest of it. So more and more is happening. Richard Gage, I want to commend you for all you do, and we'll talk to you again very soon. I'm gonna let you go and play this clip.
Thanks, great, Alex. I'll listen.
Thank you so much, Richard. Okay, yeah. Go ahead and start rolling the clip. We'll go to break and come back and play the rest. Here is a pretty fair report broadcast all over California. Here it is.
He's an architect experienced in steel structures. Now Richard Gage is touring the country with a controversial message about September 11th.
Richard Gage is here to show us why he's calling for a more thorough investigation into the collapse of the World Trade Center buildings. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome. It's great to be here.
Well, first of all, give us a little bit more about your background.
Well, I'm an architect of 20 years, a member of the American Institute of Architects, and have been studying steel-framed, fireproof buildings for about that long.
We ask that for clarification because as we get into this, we want people to make sure that you're not just somebody with a wacky idea.
Right.
Okay? You come with some science to you. What is the official reason for the collapse of the World Trade Center towers?
Well, we're told that the planes hit the buildings, and there was an explosion and a fire, and about an hour and a half later, in the case of the North Tower, the buildings collapsed due to structural weakening due to the fires. The problem is that we don't have large gradual deformations associated with collapses, and fires in high-rises have never brought down a steel frame high-rise building at all, ever. And what we have, unfortunately, is the evidence in the Twin Towers and the third skyscraper to collapse that day, which most people don't know anything about it. We have the evidence of the 10 key features of controlled demolition. In the case of Building 7, it collapses straight down into its own footprint at free fall speed in the first 100 feet. It's dropping, as you can see, symmetrically, smoothly, at free fall speed in the first 100 feet, 2.5 seconds. This is uncanny. There's 40,000 tons of structural steel designed to resist this collapse.
Is it, what, a 47-story building?
Yeah, it's just called Building 7, right a football field away from the Twin Towers.
Oh, okay, so what we're showing is left what happened, in fact.
I want to throw a point in here. Then first they said there was no free fall, and they admitted, okay, first 100, 150, it is free fall, at free fall. But then they go, but the last couple hundred, it didn't. That's because it's now piling up on itself. But it's barely falling slower than free fall after that point. And then they measure that with other control demos. It's exactly the same. That was done conventionally with a control demo. Tower 1 and 2 were blown up the opposite way, top down. Let's go back to it.
This is uncanny. There's 40,000 tons of structural steel designed to resist this collapse.
Is it, what, a 47-story building?
Yeah, it's just called Building 7, right a football field away from the Twin Towers.
Oh, okay, so what we're showing is left what happened. In fact, right is a controlled where you are using, or the people who made this happen, used demolition.
Indeed, and this is a direct comparison. And you can see that, indeed, almost free fall speed, free fall acceleration through 40,000 tons of structural steel. That is uncanny. So we have 700 architects and engineers demanding a new investigation as a result of this evidence and the evidence in the World Trade Center. That is very explosive. Almost every architect and engineer we show this information to agrees with us that these are controlled demolitions.
All right, let's stop right there. I'm going to come back and play the wrestling and then Glenn Beck and then Gerald Salente. Look, folks, think of the courage of these 700 women and men. Like the founding fathers signing their John Hancocks on that piece of paper. And like he said, everybody, 90% you talk to know it. They're afraid to sign. We have to step up to the plate. We have to say, I'm not afraid, I'm a patriot. That's the first big step in winning against the New World Order is stop cowering. They want to intimidate you. Get past the... Okay, let's go back to this video at prisonplanet.tv and on the radio with the audio of a pretty fair newscast that we're breaking down here with Richard Gage going over what really happened on 9/11.
This evidence and the evidence in the World Trade Center that is very explosive. Almost every architect and engineer we show this information to agrees with us that these are controlled demolitions. If we can get them to look at the information, because obviously the implications of a controlled demolition are dark for our country, because that means somebody besides Al-Qaeda was involved, because these have to be easily 3 of the most highly secure buildings outside the Pentagon.
Now, if that was a controlled demolition, would there not be any evidence at the ground level of explosives within the building itself, that's the debris that's left?
Indeed, and what we find down there is pools of molten iron.
What does that mean?
Several tons. Exactly. What is that doing there? The first responders see it, the structural engineers see it. It's documented by FEMA, the melting of steel. Normal office fires is what's supposed to have brought these buildings down, along with jet plane impacts. But jet fuel and office fires don't produce molten iron or molten steel. It doesn't begin to melt until 3,000 degrees. But what we have is the fires only produce maybe 1,600 degrees. So what produced all that molten iron? Well, it has in it the chemical evidence of a special incendiary, which is thermite, a high-tech incendiary used to cut through steel like a hot knife through butter. Indeed, in all of the dust throughout lower Manhattan, we have a 4 to 6 inch thick layer of this dust, and throughout it we have evidence of tiny spheres, billions of them, several tons of previously molten iron. Well, how does that happen? If you have molten iron, the byproduct of thermite is molten iron, and it's dispersed throughout all of this dust.
Now, you are allowed to go in and get samples and examine it?
Oh, there's plenty of dust. A lot of people have this dust, and 4 of these samples have been sent to physicist Stephen Jones, formerly of Brigham Young University. And they find in it not only these spheres, with which others have found too, USGS, R.J. Lee, doing toxicological studies. These spheres have iron, aluminum, fluorine, manganese, very unusual elements associated only with thermite. And there's small chips of unignited thermite as well. This is very high-tech thermite.
Yeah, let's stop right there. You can watch the rest of it on YouTube. We got a link up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. But that's key. The federal government and other branches found the spheres and the thermite and didn't know what they were and wrote them up in reports. That's key, because folks go, oh, Stephen Jones and other people, you know, they got these from people that live nearby, construction workers, people that saved it, and You know, that there's not chain of custody. Oh, I'm sorry. The federal government's own studies admit it all. They blew those buildings sky high.